On today's show, Tosh and I are joined by Eric Eastman. We take an old look at new. I'm still salivating over that one. Sponsored by Raleigh Winter and Associates. The Red Smith Banquet Throwback. The powerful, the punishing number 33, Ron Dayne, Wisconsin Badger, NFLer. And Tosh and I wrap up the show like we always do with It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what do you say, folks? Let's get this show on the road.
And then the greatest thing I ever did, I forced myself to step out of my comfort zone, and I ended up taking jobs out in Colorado. You know, when you're a backpack guide, you can't worry about rituals keeping you alive. You just have to worry about keeping yourself and the people you're hiking with alive. So my rituals just went away. I couldn't worry about washing my hands 300 times because I had to make sure that I could start a fire. And if we didn't have food, we would be in trouble. Throwing myself way, way out of my comfort zone. I really, I got rid of them.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to another episode of the Newsa-Cast. We are, as always, pleased that you tune in and listen, and we hope that you continue to do so and tell your friends and family and neighbors and everybody on the streets that the Newsa-Cast is out there.
Absolutely, Tosh. Just local content. We even talked to our guest, Eric Eastman, about that. It was, Tosh, I kind of feel like we sort of, and not even patting ourselves on the back. We're just kind of accomplishing the mission we set out to have really interesting conversations with local folks.
Yeah.
Folks that, frankly, you probably never even heard of, right? And you just dive into, we're never quite sure what we're going to talk about. And this one was another incredible episode and a lot of really solid mental health talk and issues. And man, it's better than anybody. It's an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. It is an issue. It's an issue with, from young people all the way up to older people. I mean, we see it in everything. We see it in professional sports. You see it in high school kids and middle school, elementary school. It's all over. And we have to do a better job of taking care of our mental health. And we kind of dive into that a little bit with Eric Eastman. So it's a good episode to listen to for sure.
Absolutely, Tosh. Before we get into all of that, though, man, what's new? How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. How about yourself?
Well, I went Friday night. I caught our house band Diggstown down at Riverside. That was a great show. Beautiful night out there.
Yeah, it was.
I tell you what, I mean, we every time we talk Diggstown, keys are just electric. So good. But the thing that was cool was they pretty much had unlimited time. They must have played. I bet you they played 3 hours.
Oh my gosh!
And they just extended the jams, and it was so good. I mean, they played just everything out. It was a 3-hour show. I'm sure. And
that's incredible.
Epic night, Tosh. You know what else was incredible?
What's that?
Closed Riverside, Tosh. Come on now.
You closed the Riverside?
I did, Tosh. I had a rough night that night. I shouldn't be bragging about that. It happens every once in a while, but with a couple of people that had a good time with. They were a lot of fun. In fact, one, interesting for all my lacrosse friends. You certainly know Salisbury College out east.
Yeah,
the dude I was hanging out with, met him for the first time. He's from Baltimore. He was a lacrosse player back in the day. I think it was
nice.
Like 2008-ish or so. And he was, we had some good lacrosse talk, but he played for Salisbury.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool to talk to him and spend one night with him. Probably never see him again the rest of my life, but shout out Tim, man. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. We went to the FVL Freedom game. And
dude, what is up with FVL? They are, do they not score 40 every single game?
Yeah, well, they had a couple mental mistakes. They probably should have won that game. But Freedom is a good team. They're 4-0, 5-0, whatever they are right now. They're a tough team, really good team. FVL definitely had their chances. Not to get into anything, but you have a blow in coverage here. You make a
Yeah.
stupid penalty to extend the play here. And, you can't give a good team extra chances. And you see that all over, whether it's high school, whether it's professional sports. You give a team an extra chance. I mean, the Packers did it against Indianapolis.
Right. Or ask Will Levis.
Yeah. A dumb penalty on a field goal, and it turns into a touchdown because they get the first down, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, so FBL's offense is pretty lethal, isn't it? I mean, they got great quarterback play, and their running back is something else too.
Yeah, they're looking good. I mean, it's a long season yet. There's still a lot to play, and they have homecoming this week. So against Seymour,
Nice.
I believe, the Thunder.
So does Appleton North. Amelia's going.
All right, see, there you go.
I just saw we're halfway through the high school football season.
Go.
It's incredible how fast the season goes.
Well, if it's homecoming at North and homecoming at FVL, you probably want to stay away from Ballard and JJ on Friday nights.
No doubt. No doubt, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
doubt.
Who does North play?
That's a great question, Tosh, and I don't have the answer for you.
Put you on the spot. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm sure. I bet you Lindsay or Taylor might let us know.
They probably will.
They've shout out those guys, right, Tosh? We've had Snoop Dogg. We've had. Am I supposed to ask you what are we at for the NFL countdown? Do we keep that thing going? Does Snoop Dogg tell us?
NFL countdown for what? Not really sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. They got some event is going to be up in Green Bay in April. Slips my mind right now, but I don't know. There's some clock that indicates what's going on.
I guess I blocked that out. In the 10% of my brain I use, it's not in there.
That's right.
I did. This was cool. I got a chance on Thursday. I was at school, and Oshkosh North and Appleton East in the Adaptive Sports League had indoor soccer, so I got to check out some of that, which was fantastic. I got to see some, East people, and the young people out there were having a blast, and they were competing hard. It was really a lot of fun to see, and like I said, I suggest that you get out there and check out if you can find the Adaptive Sports League. It is heartwarming. It is amazing, and just a very, very special event.
Yeah, that's so cool, Tosh. I know you texted us, our Newsa-Cast team, that night about that, and I know we want to tell that story. I think we're going to try to do an episode coming up in the future on that. I mean, it's so cool. It's just incredible. I love that. I remember Tosh, it was probably a year ago now. We talked to the Challenger League out at Pop Warner.
Well, that's another thing. On Saturday, they did first games on the new field, on the adaptive field.
Oh, is it built? The turf is built? Yep. No kidding.
They had their first games on Saturday, so I just saw an article about that. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. So congratulations to Pop Warner to get that set up.
Yeah,
opens up football to a whole nother group of young people. It's fantastic.
I'm going to ride my bike out to Plowman Park sometime this fall and take a look at that, Tosh.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just got to be spectacular.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Hey, I also wanted to give a shout out, and I know Lindsay posted this on all our socials, but our editor, Taylor, Lindsay's husband, he did a pretty cool thing that, Tosh, I know you're very familiar with, your wife, Melissa, but he cut his locks for cancer. Taylor had some nice flow, and
he did.
Got I think, Tosh, we have a new editor. I'm not sure, but yeah, he cut his hair locks for for cancer.
Yeah, those at Peaceful Purpose.
Right.
They make the wigs for people who have medical issues and losing their hair. So it is a fantastic organization. As my wife battled cancer, she was a recipient of one of those, and what a great cause and great organization for sure.
Yeah, no, it's such a cool story. And then, man, to have the ability to make a wig out of it's pretty cool. What a trip! I mean, what a cool skill to have. Whoever does that. Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Tosh, I don't know. I didn't really do much else. I ate like a king, I think, this weekend. But other than that, it was nice to see the Packers with a win. The Brewers are on fire. High school season is underway. There's been a lot of great soccer games, football games, volleyball games. Yeah. Everything's fired up. We're a couple of weeks into school. The theaters are kicking off. It's full goal for everybody.
What is the play at Appleton North? What will it be? Does your daughter know?
She knows. I should know. I don't know.
Just put you on the spot. Sorry, Joe.
No, so what they are working on right now is their one act, and that's pretty cool. I believe it's serial. I'm such a poor pronouncer of those kinds of words, but
Serial Dvorak?
Yeah, I believe that's what their one act is going to be.
Right.
It's either that or King Lear, one of the two, because they did both of those performances last year.
Okay.
One of those two performances is going to be this one act, and I know I talked about it last year, but for those of you that don't know what this is, you have a time limit. It's like 36 minutes, 42 minutes, something like that. But you start with an empty stage. You have to set up, do the one act, the performance, and then strike, set it down, and be off the stage to a clean stage in that time limit. And it gets judged, and Appleton North has literally won like 24 years in a row. No lie.
Jeez.
And it's, it's incredible. But the amount of time that they put into theater is equal to what any athlete that we talk about on this show, that they put in that amount of time as well. I mean, this weekend, it's a Sunday night, as people maybe come to know, we record Sunday night, and Saturday and Sunday this week, Amelia spent basically 10 to 12 hours at Appleton North working on this. So it's pretty cool. That's the competitive part of theater, which was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We got a great community, don't we, Tosh? So many cool things.
There are a lot of cool things, and we have to remember this weekend we have two big, huge community events. We have the License to Cruise, and Oktoberfest.
Yeah, no doubt. Are you gonna go downtown at all?
Well, I am not sure, because it is homecoming for Ethan. So
sure.
We'll have to do pictures and stuff like that. And the game's Friday night. So I'll have to see if we can make it down. I'm hoping to make it down a little bit. There's always some good food. The firemen always have some amazing chili.
Yeah, they sell out
quickly. So you have to get down early for the fireman chili.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, Tosh. I've got to carry mail that day, and that's all right. There's a lot of great live music. We've talked about it. If you miss this, there's the next day you can catch a show somewhere.
I do believe we have to shout out Eric Krieger. I believe Listening Party is playing at Oktoberfest on Saturday.
Nice.
So we'll just give him a shout out and let people know. Go check out Listening Party. I'm not sure what stage they're playing at, but I do remember seeing their name.
Tosh, speaking of our favorite place, Poplar Hall.
Yeah.
Have you seen the shows that are coming now?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
You've got the Kitchen Dwellers coming in October, Sierra Hall in November, and you've got Yonder Mountain. Yeah, coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible.
That'll be Yonder's third trip to this area in the last 6 months. Yeah,
that's I really can't believe that's so awesome. I mean, we've said it before, but to get groups like that, national touring groups of that size,
right,
and that style of music, man, that's incredible.
It is absolutely amazing. It's good for the town of Appleton for sure.
Yeah. I feel like we got to talk to the guy at Poplar Hall. I don't even know who owns the thing, but I feel like we have to pick their brain on the Newsa-Cast. We talk about them literally every third show. I feel like
that might be a good upcoming episode.
There we go.
All right. Well, I suppose we should probably get moving here and get this show going.
Get the show on the road, Tosh. It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and/or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, it is time for that look at history that we like to call an old look at new. So, Joe, what are you looking at this week?
Well, Tosh, I love this one. It came to me last night, and I teased it on. I took my hand at making a social clip. It's on our TikTok and YouTube reels, but the grasshopper comes flying right at you. It's kind of cool. But George's Steakhouse, and I feel like I might have talked about this another time, but I felt like, you know what? I got to revisit it. It's a classic steak joint in Appleton, Wisconsin. My parents met there in the 60s. I was kind of surprised to learn actually that it was started in the 30s. It's got a great family tradition. It's been held like in families for forever.
Wow.
And that's so cool. But they have the piano bar, 13-foot Steinway. They had the guy, Steve, I think his name was, maybe was playing. I mean, we were, old fashioned and grasshopper at the end of the night, but you sit around the piano and reminisce and talk. I mean, it's tremendous. And obviously the food is fantastic, and just the decor and atmosphere. And it's truly an old look at new, because it's been here a while, and it's the go-to spot in Appleton. I know a lot of towns have their go-to spot, but for us, one of those spots definitely is George's.
Absolutely. Now, it's been a while since I've been there, but everything you say is true. It is a
You know what else I like, Tosh? It's course. You get it's 4 course. You get soup and salad. You get the liver paste with crackers. You get Saturday night prime rib. I think they have outstanding duck. I heard.
Okay.
And we didn't do our dessert was grasshoppers, but Tosh, I'm a grasshopper guy. I've changed. They are so good.
Well,
that's twice now. Come on.
Well, that's what you choose. There you go. Little ice cream drink to end the nights. Could be a grasshopper, could be a brandy Alexander, could be a pink squirrel.
That's a good call.
There you go.
So good, Tosh. Well, that's my old look at new George's. Tosh, what are you taking a look at this week?
I'm going to go back to the date of September 29th, 1957. On this date, the Packers dedicated City Stadium, which is now Lambeau Field, and they defeated the Bears Still Suck 21-17. And in the crowd that day was the one and only Richard Nixon.
Yes. And Danny Ornstein. He was there too.
He was there. I figured that. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
He sold tickets back then. But yeah. In fact, I kind of think I remember him telling the story about Nixon being there. And it's cool to see the pictures, right, of that old stadium. Yeah. The program, I think, of that was, because, I mean, it obviously doesn't look anything like it does now.
No, absolutely.
I think maybe between the 20s, possibly between the goal lines, you had the stadium going up.
I think, what did
60,
I see?
60 rows then?
37,000 people was what it held at that time, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. The end zones were open, and, it's been cool to watch that stadium develop, and transform over the years.
Yeah, they've done an amazing job keeping the history, but also making it modern. So
yeah, it's unreal with Titletown and the practice facility. And I mean, we all know it, man. How lucky are we to have the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Tosh, I love the old look at new. I know what you're going to ask me too.
Would that be something about who it's sponsored by?
I asked to be Mr. Raleigh Winter and Associates. This is twice now I've done this, because one of the dining companions were the lovely Winters. They were at George's that night as well. So yes, Raleigh Winter and Associates, thank you for being the presented sponsor of an old look at new.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners. Just want to give you a little information about the mission of the Newsa-Cast. Our mission stems from the mission of the Red Smith Banquet, and that mission was to support youth sports in the Fox Valley. Over the 57 years of its existence, we've been honored to give out over $1 million to various youth sports organizations throughout the Fox Valley. The Newsa-Cast is looking to continue that mission and support youth sports as well. You can help us do that by donating to the Newsa-Cast and the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
A couple of different directions right off the bat. I mean, we're fellow podcasters. We're doing it, right?
Yes,
we're
we are
out there, aren't we?
Giddy up.
Indeed. I love your name, Mr. Ease. I love how you spell Mr. That's a sweet podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's a lot of fun.
Why start a podcast? What drew you to it? What's
So teaching for, I don't know how many, 25 years, came up with a lot of anecdotes for a lot of the topics that we cover. So there's not a lot of research that has to go into it. And being during the school year, things are pretty crazy. But what it does is it gives people access to psychology in a way that's entertaining and anecdotal. And it gives them an opportunity to kind of connect what we study to the real world. And so that's why I've started that. And, the podcast itself, I mean, I'm looking at a year to 18 months for it to hopefully take off. But right now we get tons of views on like YouTube Reels, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like tens of thousands. So that's pretty exciting.
Nice. No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's just, and of course the coolest topics are the ones that get the most hits. So you mentioned serial killers or schizophrenia, those types of things, my life with obsessive compulsive disorder. Yeah, those are going to get a lot more hits, but it's also like just, for me, I really, really enjoy doing them. They keep me sharp. In a time in my career where I need something to kind of energize me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Doing, we do 2 podcasts a week. We send 1 out a week. So we have some in the queue waiting in case things happen.
Right.
So it's really fun. And like I said, it keeps me sharp and it's just entertaining. So
it's a great outlet. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Tosh and I love doing this. I mean, you ask us 10 years ago, you never thought you'd do something like this at all.
Exactly.
So you come up with the idea to do the podcast, but, and we've kind of found this out ourselves that the most views aren't through Spotify, iTunes anymore. It's Reels, right? Or it's Instagram, or it's all the social platforms where you, even TikTok, where you get the views. Is that something that did you discover that in the process, that this is the direction that my message should go?
So I don't have a budget, but I have a director and a producer, and he is a marketing entrepreneur down in St. Louis, and we've known each other for quite a while. And we have actually done where he is editing our 4th mini documentary on teenage mental health in the Fox Cities.
Yeah.
So we got hooked up originally doing these documentary shorts. So these documentaries that are, 14 minutes long. And we started to really look at taking those clips and integrating them into these 7 to 10 second YouTube Reels or even 40-second blurbs. And then so when we started the podcast, and he is my director and producer for the podcast, and his name is Bear Wade with Unify Agency. He's amazing at what he does, and he edits all of these clips for us every week. And so we just kind of realized through this process that with short attention span theater, if you remember that, right? In the day and age where we have the attention span of 7 to 10 seconds, it just kind of naturally gravitated to those really quick reels, that sort of thing, that people can get their information instantly. So it was kind of trial and error, but we actually originally started this process with the documentaries that we were doing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's incredible, really. And what a day and age we live in, right? To have these different platforms to spread the word. And also, and that editor piece, right? I mean, that is almost the key to everything we've just talked about. Yeah,
it's so incredibly true. And like I said, the Bear Wade that I work with, he is so gifted. And it is such a huge piece of the puzzle. And it's really dangerous for me because I do talk about the dangers of social media. Mm-hmm. Yet I use social media to get my message out. Right. And I justify it this way. If people are going to be algorithmically formulated into going into a certain direction, a certain rabbit hole on TikTok or YouTube Reels or whatever. Let's try to just fill it with stuff that's actually truthful and
Right.
things that make a difference in a positive difference in humanity's life. So, I try to use not so good platforms. I try to use them the best possible way.
Can you explain the algorithm to me?
Sure. Yeah. So
You can. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So we don't pay for TikTok. We don't pay for Insta. We don't pay for YouTube Reels, right? But there has to be a product.
Mm-hmm.
But the product isn't YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. The product is us. We are the product. So our information gets sold to all of these companies, advertisers, all of these things. They pay for our information. And then Google, et cetera, and TikTok and YouTube, they will use these algorithms to bombard our feeds with things that will keep us on as long as possible. So we end up being the product, and companies are paying to keep us online.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
So those algorithms are formulated to bombard us with things that will keep us online, keep us on that social media platform for as long as humanly possible.
So if we're the product, what's the key to increase our worth, increase our product awareness?
We are the product, but we don't get to set those prices, So there's honestly what we can do is be incredibly, incredibly aware and conscious of what we're clicking on.
Yeah.
And so we can't, if we want to value our worth, we value our worth by what we click on. And if we go down these rabbit holes of disinformation, these rabbit holes of fake news, and I'm not just talking about political fake news, because there's enough of that. We all know that, but I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about just fake videos. I have a 7-year-old, and he cannot be on YouTube. He cannot be on YouTube for kids because there's so much fake out there that he gets a false sense of what is real and what's unreal. And so, keep your kids away from social media until they're between 14 and 16, public service announcement. Seriously, but we can be healthy, the best products that we can be by being really, really aware of what we're clicking on. Yeah. Being aware of who we're following on TikTok, of who we're following on Twitter, or if you want to call it X, whatever. But just to be aware of that, I think that's kind of the key.
Well, you talked a little bit about the documentaries that started all of this for you. You obviously saw a need with the mental health and education. We totally see it every single day. What possessed you to start looking at those documentaries?
So that's a really fantastic question. Thanks for asking that, Tosh.
Great question, Tosh.
So it's really strange. So like I said, Bear Wade, Unify Agency, he reached out to me on Facebook and asked if I had any really good documentary ideas. And I originally I have a really strong passion. I'm an advocate for death penalty reform. So we were thinking about doing a podcast about a gentleman named Scott Panetti. If anybody wants to look him up, it's an incredibly interesting and incredibly sad story. So we originally thought about going down that pipeline. And we spent hours contemplating that story. And then we were like, we want to do something that's really that can hit home. And so we started to talk, and Bear was like, what do you think you know the most about a problem that's out there? And I said teenage mental health and then teen brain, because as a psych teacher and I do presentations and that sort of stuff. I've studied a lot. And so he goes, well, let's go down that road and let's see where it goes. And so we spent, oh my goodness, this is not a short process, but 100 hours at least putting together a pitch piece, just the pitch piece.
Sure.
and it was really dark and it was really sad, and it made things look like things are sideways and there's no fixing it. And we spent hours on this, hours upon hours on this 10, 12-minute pitch piece just to try to get financing. And we were like, we don't like it. We were like, this is sad. And we want there to be hope. So we completely changed. And what he did, Bear came back up here a second and a third time to the Appleton area, and we recorded. We reached out to some community members in nonprofits that knew young adults, teenagers, and early 20s that had a really positive story. And so the first few that we did were based off of these young adults that had trying times, but they came out the other end healthy and happy. And of course, still with their issues and still with their problems, like many of us do. But they made it. And we so much wanted to focus on that, to have more of a hopeful approach than a dark and dreary one. Unfortunately for us, when you do that, it's much more difficult to sell hope than it is to sell despair. So we're still working on getting it out there. Okay. So, but we're very proud of what we've accomplished so far. So so that's how it developed.
Okay.
That building process, when you have the balls to change it 2 or 3 times, that's a hard thing to do. But just that entire, hundreds of hours of just building something just to basically build the pilot, that in some weird way, that's almost the best part of just the whole process, isn't it? Just your ideas are exploding and you feel like the sky is the limit at that point.
Yeah, that's a great point. We weren't even frustrated, it's like you said, all of a sudden we realized that, no, we don't want to do it this way. And that's okay. And we were like, now we know exactly what we want to do. And it was, I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. And I had never done anything like this before. Like I said, I give speeches on the teen brain and mental health and that sort of stuff, but I had never created anything like this. And so not only was the task incredibly daunting, but it was so rewarding and so educational. And as much as I hope it ends up helping as many people as it can possibly help, I feel so lucky that I had the opportunity to be a part of something that I never thought I would do. And, when you get to our age, fellas, we're not, young chickens. We're not young whippersnappers. When you get to our age, there's not as many opportunities to do new things.
Right.
And it's just like the podcasts, the documentaries. When you have a chance to do new stuff when you're our age, freaking do it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Do new things.
It makes you feel younger and excited and revigorated.
Oh, for sure. And, when you're in that daily grind and you want to be rejuvenated and you have that outlet that makes you realize, and with the documentaries that we did, so many of the young adults were talking about teachers that help them. Yeah. And so me being a teacher, it was like, okay, not only am I creating this documentary, I also am realizing that, holy shit, I need to keep at it in my job, and I need to be there for these kids, and so it was so good on so many levels. Yeah.
Are your students fans of your work?
So our documentaries, we have not put them out there big time yet.
Or even just your content on social media? Do your students,
yes.
They get excited for that?
Yeah. So the ones that were a part of the pitch piece and the ones that were a part of the 2 documentaries, they loved it. Absolutely loved it. The podcast, I'm really careful. I don't show my podcasts. Okay. The documentaries I definitely can, because there's no bias whatsoever in the documentaries. With the podcasts, I try to focus solely on factual information, but again, in this day and age, people can misconstrue something that you say, and
For
thinking
real?
that you're trying to talk people into believing things a certain way. And really all I'm trying to do is to make sure that people use their brains and critically process.
Right.
So I don't advertise a whole lot about the documentaries and the podcasts yet. But we are working on that launch piece.
Okay.
When you're tying, social media into this and just in working with kids every day, are things worse now for kids, or is it just being reported more? What is the state of mental health for kids right now?
I think there's a complete and total lack of understanding of what is really going on, and it absolutely starts with smartphones and social media. You know, as a scientist and a teacher, and Tosh, you obviously can respect this. There's correlations and then there's causation.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two factors that might be swinging with one another. Self-esteem goes up as screen time goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of connections and correlations. So although we can't necessarily say that social media causes a lot of the mental health issues that are occurring right now, this is what we can say. Since 2012, when our 14-year-olds, 12 to 14-year-olds, the majority were handed a smartphone, mental health issues have expanded, have gone off the charts.
Yeah.
Just a little like crazy. You look at teenage girls and suicidal ideation jumping 185%.
Mm-hmm.
It's since 2012, since the advent of social media. And you're looking at anxiety disorders jumping 33%. You're looking at depression jumping 30% since 2012, 2014. Right. It is crazy. So that's not our only problem. But gosh, if parents would just realize that the harm that social media and smartphones can do to our teenagers, I don't even know how to explain how bad it can be. But if we're concerned about our students eating healthy foods, yet we let them go on social media for 5 to 6 hours a day, the healthy foods doesn't matter. Yeah. We want them to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep at night, but they're on their phones 3 hours before they go to bed. That sleep doesn't matter. Yeah. It's such a very powerful piece. Social media is a huge part of it. And this is the thing. It's already out. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there, and kids are on it all the time, and parents don't want to take it away because all these other kids are on it. Mm-hmm. So if they're not on it, they feel like they're not a part of the system. So we just need to really get all of these parents to get on board and honestly just freaking figure it out, because it is unhealthy. Yeah. It is really bad. As we use our podcast to post on social media.
Well, and that's the bit of it, right? Because it's also really, really cool, really, really helpful. It's an incredible how you can communicate with people, get the news. It's changed our world, but you also have this evil that you just talked about. And if we're just looking at the real world, how, other than awareness, how do you attack this problem? I guess you just have to be stellar parents, but boy, I don't think is good enough.
But no, and listen, I use technology every day. And if it wasn't for technology, our COVID issues would have been 100-fold worse, 1,000-fold worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no question. And social media kept us connected during that time. And I think I think your point is so important, that social media and smartphones are of tremendous value.
Yeah.
But
Jim Rome used to say that the internet is the greatest invention ever and the worst invention ever. And I feel like social media kind of is that same thing. It's good and bad.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a big Jim Rome fan, but Those are wise words.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is. And there is so much good with technology and social media, just connecting with people, being able to the access and ease of sharing information, good and bad, I think is so awesome. But the fallacies that go along with it and the self-esteem issues that can come about can be really painful. And yeah, there needs to be a balance. But I mean, if I were to suggest to parents, I only have a 7-year-old, but he won't have access to social media.
Right.
I would guess 16,
Right.
perhaps 14 years old, but probably 16.
Right.
And he won't have a phone with any sort of internet access. He'll have a Gab phone, just because I'll get sick of him using my phone to call friends, I'm sure. But a Gab phone without any social media and internet stuff like that, where he can still get a hold of his friends and get a hold of me and my wife, his mom. But yeah, it just really needs to be monitored. Don't let them bring their phones up to bed with them. Like,
Right.
just like, yeah, just, I think those are just some of the things that can
Yeah.
be of value.
And one of the problems, I mean, being in education, is that parents are just as bad. And when you tell them you can't have your phone in the classroom, parents will fight tooth and nail to say, my kid needs a phone all the time. And it's unbelievable. I mean, we just talked about why it's so bad. I mean, the mental health and everything else. I mean, we've seen just those huge increases since 2014. But you know what? A phone is a nice babysitter in some cases.
For sure. And at my school where I teach, we just went to, we have pockets for them to put their cell phones in.
Right.
I've actually been doing it for 2.5 years, and now they just instilled this policy throughout the school. But our students put their phones in these pockets, so they're not on their person during every class, and then they can have them in between classes. Yep. So the 5 to 7 minutes of passing time, they can have their phones then. And the policy, there's definitely kinks, and there's definitely some issues, but where I teach, we don't get a ton of that.
Okay.
But I know where I previously taught, that would have been a big, gigantic, huge. My child needs to have their phone,
Right.
and it's their personal right to have it. And at the school where I'm at, the parents are like, "Yeah, go ahead, that's cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it. We get it, and we trust you. We trust what you're doing." Okay, and so we don't have a lot of that,
good.
but yes, you look at L.A., Los Angeles.
Yep.
What, the second biggest school district in the United States, they lock their phones in a locker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
School. Yeah. And I mean, this is another deal. You're not just talking about every time the phone buzzes in your pocket, the distraction that does, that sort of stuff. But I mean, you have kids texting about getting in fights,
Right.
meeting certain places, going to the bathroom and vaping, all of those things. They're using their phones to contact each other about those things. And when you don't have access during the class, that can make a big difference. So there's other positives to it too. But yeah, Tosh, your point is well taken, that there is some blowback, and parents just need to, they need to hear it. They just need to know that it is not healthy for them.
There are actually some districts that use, it's similar to like some concerts and sporting events that require no phones now. The magnetic bag that locks.
Yep.
And there are some districts, I mean, it's incredibly expensive, but some districts that are using that, and kids have to put their phones in those bags, and they stay locked for whatever period of time that the district decides, which is a great idea. But as we know, schools don't have the money to do that in most cases as well.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like comedians, they do that a lot when they're working on their set and they don't want anything to go out. They'll have all those phones locked up. Yeah. And there are some districts that do that. Mm-hmm. And I was actually talking to a local establishment owner, and he was actually going to put chicken wire up around his building so people couldn't use their phones.
Nice.
We just talked about that Friday, and he goes, "Yeah, I thought about it." And but at this location, really, people rarely use their phone because people just start chatting all the time, and that's what we're getting at the school without their phones.
Right.
Like kids are actually engaged in conversation with one another and with teachers, and it's been a big positive this year.
That's
so
good.
The art of conversation, right? And just talking to people. Heck, I've stopped and talked to you on my mail route. People lose that. Just talk to people. It's the best thing in the world. Just to look somebody in the eye and just shoot the breeze, right?
Oh, so very, very true. Yeah, we took a trip overseas, and we were in a different country, and we were at dinner, and we were looking around, and nobody was on their phone, including these little kids, and they were sitting there for 3 hours at dinner, and everybody was chatting, and I'm like, this is so cool, like this is awesome.
Yeah,
it's right. I don't know why I don't know. It blows my mind. It blows my mind, but. Back in the day, back in your day, I'm sure phones weren't an issue. Dude, Harvard grad, I never realized, but what the heck was that experience like?
Oh, I did not go.
Oh, okay.
I got accepted into Harvard Graduate School of Education.
Yeah.
And I decided the return on investment wasn't going to quite be what I needed to be at this day and age in my life, but I was going to go to get a master's in educational leadership, and I decided against it. My wife was really pushing me hard to do it, but once I decided not to do it, I was pretty relieved, and it wasn't really about the academia of it. It was about the time, and it was about the financial, because it was a pretty steep cost. I feel incredibly honored to have been accepted.
Oh, absolutely.
I felt really lucky to just have that opportunity. And the thing that's interesting, I could say that maybe in a different time in my life earlier on, I could do something like that. But earlier on, I would have never gotten into Harvard because I just didn't have the background that I needed to get into a program like this.
Okay.
So,
was it a long process to get to that point? To get accepted? Yeah. Like what did you even have to do? I can't even imagine what you'd have to do.
DNA sample. It was a lot of essay writing, a lot of transcripts, a lot of red tape to get in there, mission statement, you name it,
sure.
Educational philosophy, and then of course all the transcript type information. So just the essays alone were incredibly time consuming. But again, it's something that I can now say at 52 years of age, I got accepted into Harvard.
Absolutely.
Never thought you could say. I won't say that I'm a dropout because I never started. So, but yeah, it was the acceptance email was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. No doubt, man. That's awesome. And growing up, were you always a good student? Were you always fascinated by learning?
Oh, geez.
Oh
man, that is a loaded question. I had really, really good teachers. In really, I mean, I can name them off. Like in elementary, I had Mr. Roop, Peter Roop, who is an author from Appleton now, and Dave Schmidt, who ended up being a superintendent down in Waukesha. Larry Kaler, who recently passed away. And then, that's just elementary school. I had such tremendous role models. My dad was a teacher for 40 years. Of course, that played a role. School was easy for me. I not because I have an incredibly high intellect. I just really was good at taking tests. So, there's that piece. But high school, I just had great teachers that really prepared me for college. And then once I got to college, that's when I actually really started to learn how to study. And so double majoring in biology and psychology, pre-med, I had to take some really difficult courses. And I really realized the level of intensity and focus that I could have. And I never had in high school. I just did the bare minimum to get as decent grades as I kind of wanted. But then in college, that's when I was really pushed to take it really to the next level. And again, I was lucky enough to be able to learn how to study incredibly efficiently. And
so how did you, with OCD, like how did that help you or hurt you, or how did that play into it?
It helped me. So having obsessive compulsive disorder, I had really powerful obsessive thoughts, and then I had compulsive behaviors, things that I had to do. So when I was reading a page, sometimes I would read it 2 or 3 times, because if I missed a word, I thought something bad was going to happen. Right. So, taking notes, I had to have all my notes perfectly, that sort of stuff. And like even in basketball, having to swish 10 shots in a row before I left the gym. And if it wasn't an actual swish and I counted it, was I cheating? If I was cheating, would something bad happen?
Yeah, that eternal battle, right?
Right. And so it did help me, because it made me an incredibly conscientious student. And it made me very, very disciplined. I've lost a lot of that discipline as I've battled to overcome the OCD. So the discipline is kind of drifted away a little bit, but I don't mind that, because I don't have all of these rituals that I had to follow. So
that's kind of interesting you say that. So as you've aged, you'd say like your symptoms or whatever, your symptoms have maybe declined, or you've learned to live with them?
No, they, I went to therapy. I saw a psychologist when I was in middle and high school, but it was still bad. It was funny because when I posted it for the first time on Facebook, nobody knew. My parents didn't know I had OCD for about 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. And none of my friends knew all the way through high school. And it was still really bad in high school. And people just thought I was like arrogant or like whatever, but I was actually just really fearful all the time. But I came across like I was okay. And so it's really like interesting that the whole phrase where like, you never know what a person is going through. I kind of really try to live that way, because nobody knew what I was going through. But I did cognitive behavior therapy. And then the greatest thing I ever did is I forced myself to step out of my comfort zone. And I ended up taking jobs out in Colorado for about 5 or 6 summers straight. And I lived up in the mountains. And, when you're a backpack guide, mm-hmm. you can't worry about rituals keeping you alive. You just have to worry about keeping yourself and the people you're hiking with alive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my rituals just went away. I couldn't worry about washing my hands 300 times, because I had to make sure that I could start a fire when it was 35 degrees and pouring rain. Because if we didn't have fire, we didn't have food. And if we didn't have food, we would be in trouble, And so by throwing myself way, way out of my comfort zone, I really, I got rid of them.
I understand that in a weird way. You got to kind of beat it out of you. I was diagnosed with Tourette's at 13, and I've got a lot of letters associated with my name in there. So I understand what you're talking about. And sometimes you're right. You got to just put yourself out there and just beat whatever that is out of you somehow, some way.
It was the greatest thing and the scariest thing ever. And, the rituals they're pretty much completely gone. They've been gone for, 27 years or so. It's funny because when I get super stressed, this is just an example. If I'm really stressed out and I wash my hands and I don't feel like I did a good enough job, which is incredibly rare these days. But I'm like, oh God, here comes my little friend. Okay. I need to wash him another time. Nope, not going to do it. And I walk out of the bathroom real fast. But yeah, so they are all pretty much gone. Cognitive behavior therapy made a huge difference. So if anybody is struggling with depression or anxiety, OCD, and they're listening, and you've had a bad experience with therapy, go to a therapist that does cognitive behavior therapy. That's a therapy, just so you know, that is a therapy that works on both your thought patterns as well as your behavior. And so the therapy doesn't stop when you leave the office. Okay. You actually gather tools of ways that you can think and process and behaviors that you can do to help you actually practice recovery when you're outside of the therapist's office.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Great. I thank you for saying that. Really, it's incredible.
Of course.
How has that, I mean, when you look back on your life and you're in education and a coach, how did that affect you early in education and as a coach and, as a player too?
Oh gosh. I have a funny story about that. This is classic. So I when I was younger, I kind of would get on the officials quite a bit, and I would always say things twice. And there was a referee, and I'm not going to say his name, but we actually get along really well. But I could drive him crazy during games. And I would say things twice, and he would look at me, he goes, "Eric, I heard you the first time." I said, "I know, I have OCD. I say everything twice." And he just started to laugh. And it was such like a relief, like, oh my God. And, I've had some coaches that would laugh because, during a practice plan, I would never look at the clock. And all of a sudden we go to the next drill, and one of my assistants, Dave Egan, he'd look at me, he goes, "Geez, Eric, this is like the third time we've switched drills and you're on the exact time schedule." I was like, "Yeah, I guess it's lucky." And he goes, "It's just crazy." But yeah, it's a lot of hyper planning, okay, a lot of hyper preparation, but it's also incredibly painful because this is what gets me is I don't have the rituals, but I'll obsess about something that I've said.
Okay.
And so there might be something that I said a year ago, and it'll come back in my head and I'll just obsess about it. And I know other people have that too, but that's like where my obsession kind of goes. So it makes me very conscious of what I'm saying and how I'm doing things. So I really take my time in the classroom, in making sure that I talk to students in a way that's going to give them the best opportunity to be successful.
Okay.
And to give me the best opportunity to reach them. And so it has been a benefit, but it also can be very painful at times because I do obsess about stuff. And coaching was very, very difficult on an obsessive compulsive mind because you live and breathe it every second. Absolutely. And it was difficult. Yeah.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your pods or sharing the Newsa-Cast. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram. Northeastern Wisconsin Sports Advancement is a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness for youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through 3 initiatives: the Every Kid Plays Grant, the Gives Back Initiative, and scholarships to student athletes. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I know we've mentioned basketball several times. I mean, you were the Appleton North varsity basketball coach. I mean, what was your your personal high school playing days like and growing up?
Oh, come on, man!
Always your sport?
Yeah. I played a bunch of sports. I grew up going to the YMCA, and then I grew up playing basketball at Madison Junior High, where my dad was a coach for 25 years. He coached 9th grade there. And then I played in high school my senior year. We were Appleton East, 1990. We were conference champions, undefeated, yep. And we lost in the state championship game.
Ron Milwaukee. Parker, the coach then?
Yeah, Ron was my coach, yep. And we lost in the state championship game my senior year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Who was on that team? I remember watching you guys.
it was. I was kind of a role player. I started at point guard and kind of just ran the show type of thing.
Sure.
We had a stud guard, Mickey Stager,
Oh yeah.
who was all-state player. He's probably one of the top 5 all-around athletes ever to come out of Appleton that people have not heard about. He was an all-state baseball player. He was an all-state basketball player. He was just an absolute stud. And then Jeff Bell, our starting lineup, I played D3 college basketball. Mick, he could have gone D2 or possibly D1, but he ended up just going to Oshkosh, and he didn't end up playing there, but he was a high-level player. Jeff Bell was a wing player for us as well. He's a local dentist in Appleton now. Okay. And I think he had a preferred walk-on to Minnesota for football, actually, as a quarterback. He was a stud quarterback. Carl Long went to Princeton, and he was a high jumper. He could high jump 6'10", 6'11".
Wow, and he went to Princeton. No kidding.
He did, yeah. He went to Princeton. He lives out in Boston now. And then Danny Allen, he was our center, and he was like 6'8", 6'9", and he ended up playing D1 basketball at Butler University.
Wow. Wow.
And then David Ross was on a crew team at UW-Madison, and Todd Lofgren was our other guy that played quite a bit. So all of us had opportunities to play different sports at the next level, and it was a pretty cool experience. And luckily, as a team, we all kind of ran into each other in the same year, and we ended up getting inducted into the Appleton East Hall of Fame a few years ago. So that was pretty cool.
Man, good for you guys. What an experience that had to be. Was that at the old barn? Is that where your state championship games were played?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the chance to, play there at the barn. I ended up being an assistant coach, coaching at the barn for girls. And then I ended up being an assistant coach, coaching at the Cole Center for girls. So I've been down to state 3 times. Never got the North boys team there. I coached them for 7 years, but we oftentimes ran into quite the buzzsaws. So
the FBA is tough in all sports, really.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, if you can coach in the FBA, you can coach anywhere, man. It is.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a crazy basketball conference. So good.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, night in and I mean, you talk about your OCD. I mean, I can't even imagine every single night's a battle that you guys are playing.
I always told my players this, and some of them got it and some of them didn't. High school basketball and AAU basketball might as well be 2 completely different sports. And I'm not talking about talent or anything like that. I'm talking about preparation, because when you do AAU, you practice, and like I coached for Playground Warriors, so I've coached some pretty darn good players. And that's in and of itself, it's great. But when you coach in the FVA boys basketball, you have every inbounds play memorized. You have every set play memorized that a team runs. And there's no surprise that Lee Rubbis gets down to state. There's no surprise, because him and his coaching staff, they have those kids so incredibly prepared. And it's just like for every play you have a counter, and it's crazy, the preparation that it takes. And it was one of the more difficult things that I ever done. And it was glorious in and of itself. But like you said, every Tuesday and Friday, every Thursday and Saturday, like you were in for a war, and you had to have your kids prepared, or you were going to be absolutely embarrassed. And it's crazy. Yeah,
it really is. Were you doing a lot of film study? Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
I try.
It's overwhelming. It is crazy. And I mean, you look at the FVA football coaches, the coaches anywhere, like the amount of film that goes into it nowadays, it is insane. So yeah, you're having your assistant coaches watch film, you're watching film, you're breaking down offense, you're breaking down defense. And, when I first started, the first 15 years or so, we didn't have those programs that broke everything down. If you've ever heard of Huddle, Like they didn't have those things. So you were just grinding with a VHS player or just a handheld camera that you'll look at the little screen while you're going to a game or something.
So I have a film story for you, and I know you yell at officials, but you're talking to a former official. I worked football and lacrosse, and before huddle, I got to tell you one thing. Almost every official watches a ton of film, or any good official watches a ton of film. They're certainly watching their game, so they put in the work, but a lot of people don't realize that or even recognize that. But back before huddle, when I worked the games, I would bring a blank CD with me, and I would go seek out the guy that was videotaping, the girl, whatever, the team that was videotaping it, and they would burn a copy of the game tape for me. And before our crew left the stadium, we had a burnt copy on a CD, or I would have a postage paid envelope and they would mail it to me of that game. But that was the way that we obtain video, because that is just flat out the best way to learn.
And you know what? There are so many great officials out there that they'll give you a card with their email and say, could you send me the huddle? Send me the huddle. Send me the
our crew does that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I have so much respect for that. And just a note on officials. I was young and dumb when I started out, and I thought I knew everything. And I was kind of a jerk. And you know, there is a piece of me that so desperately wants to go back in time and change some of those behaviors, but I can't do it. But this is what I have done since I've actually done a lot of basketball officiating since I retired from coaching.
That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. And if I were to do it all over again, I would have officiated during the summer before I became a head coach. I would have officiated two or three nights a week for a summer or two. And like, then I would have been able to better communicate what I was trying to get across to officials. And I of course, the obvious piece is I would have had such a greater respect for how difficult it is to officiate. That goes without saying. But also officiating, I realized as an official how I wanted to be talked to. And as an official, it was really beneficial because I knew how most coaches wanted me to officiate. So that was beneficial too. But just that realization, I'm like, God, if I could do it all over again, I would have officiated before I would have became a coach. And I would recommend that for any coach. And they most of them would realize that they're not real good at it.
I 100% agree with you. I think you're a better coach, one, if you do exactly like you said, and just officiate and understand what they're going through. And I've always said this to any coach, they should really take the same test that the official takes and understand the rules and kind of what the officials are going through, or even go through that class. If you can understand, if you can understand the rules like an official, you're going to be a way better coach, because most of the time coaches really don't know what they're talking about or understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, there are definitely moments. Now, I was, as you can imagine, I was obsessive about the rule book. My deal is I was just a jerk. I was just a jerk. I was a very knowledgeable jerk, but I didn't really realize how difficult of a job it was. And you know, any 50-50 call I thought was supposed to go my way. And like I said, I just wish I was more mature at that time. And it's difficult for me to say that, but also if I'm 100% completely honest with myself, I just really wish I would have been more mature back then and would have just had a better understanding of some proper ways to act.
No, I appreciate this conversation. Literally as an official, I don't do it anymore, but I still love the officials. I advocate for them. Some of my best friends are still officials, and I'm glad we had this talk, because similar to what you talked about, mental health and all of that, there's a real issue with officials in youth sports. And, we need to have these kind of conversations, because, we complain about the parents all the time, but there are issues with coaches as well, and how they treat each other. And that needs to be addressed. And even you're seeing it bleed over into how players now act with coaches. And I think it's a lot of the same issues that you talked about with mental health. There's some similarities as to why this behavior is happening. And, it's not the only reason I gave up officiating, but the end of the day, I have way better things to do, like a podcast. I don't need the $75 to go out there anymore and you know, get verbally abused and all of that. As much as I enjoyed being an official, I had enough.
Right. Yeah. I totally understand that. And, you know, I don't know if we're becoming more aware of the abuse that officials take because it gets posted online more.
It doesn't help, I don't think.
It doesn't help. I think it's always been there. But perhaps this sense of entitlement that comes around might play a factor in on it. I'm not really sure. I will say this. My players never talked back to officials. It didn't matter if I was coaching AAU or middle school or varsity sports. They would never say a word to the officials. They knew better. I was there to advocate for them. And like I said, there were occasions where I stepped over the line. But there's absolutely no place for that. And as an official, it's very interesting. I'm not sure, you know, it's like so many other things, you know, like, do we put a spotlight on it now that it is more available to us with social media and that sort of stuff? Or was it always there? I don't know.
Yeah.
How long were you an official?
So I did football for about 15 years, called my last game last fall. This is my first year in retirement. And then I did the sport of lacrosse for about 8 years. And
did you see it getting worse?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It's way like the sport of lacrosse. I did. It's probably similar to AAU. I would work the summer circuit. My son Owen would play. Tosh's boy plays in the summer circuit, and I would work the tournaments. You'd work 13 games in a day, kind of a thing. And the behavior by parents, by coaches, by players was significantly worse in those situations. Part of the issue is parents are right on the sideline, like soccer. And it's brutal. It's terrible. It's bad. It's shocking, really, is what it is.
Yeah, AAU basketball was horrible. The AAU basketball probably is similar to lacrosse with just it's constant like jabbering from fans. Like
it is. It's nonstop, and I changed. I changed as a person. That's when I reflect back on. I changed as a person because of it. I know I did. My temper got short. I had no patience anymore. I basically just didn't give a flying you know what anymore at times, and it affects you, and it's not good for the game. And I know it affects other officials, and we're pretty thick skinned, and we put up with a lot. But a lot, you lose your patience. You just don't put up with it anymore. And then the parents sit there like they're stunned, like, oh, why are you losing your mind? Well, I don't know, because I've been verbally abused for 4 hours, game after game.
Yeah, that would definitely do it.
Right.
And it's
the little remarks too. It's just the under the breath remarks and listen, I'm old. My hearing sucks, but you can still hear it.
Yeah.
Well, how about that's enough officiating talk, Tosh, I'd say. Sorry, left Tosh out of there. But Tosh, I know you're going to like this subject. Your meat smoking skills. I see the smoker in the driveway. How's it looking?
So I've been doing brisket for 30 years. And I made one 3 weeks ago. And I was so mad. It was the first one I have ever screwed up. And it was $80 just right in the garbage. Yep. It was so bad. It was so bad. I was so mad. So God, I was ready to sell the smoker right then and there. I was so pissed at myself. It was a flop. So it had been going really well. I smoke our turkey every Thanksgiving, and we do beer can chickens and ribs. And like I said, brisket once a year. But oh my God, this year did I screw up. So you hit a sour subject right now.
Well, as a content creator that you are, did you record your reaction?
Oh God. If I would have recorded me cutting the flat and looking at how freaking dry it was.
Viral views.
Oh my God. I would have been so bad. God, so no, I did not record, and I am really happy I didn't. I didn't see it coming, and
yep. That makes the best content I've come to learn.
Yeah, let's go ahead and I'll send you some pictures of things that have actually turned out well. I'll avoid things that haven't.
Nice.
So
no, I know Tosh does smoking as well, and
nice.
Yeah, my saliva glands are always watery when we talk.
Nice. What's your favorite thing to smoke, Tosh?
I do like brisket. I do like shoulders. Pork shoulders. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
Do you have a pellet or do you have a stick burner?
Oh, I have a homemade offset drum smoker.
Nice.
So I have a 33-gallon heat box, firebox, offset, and then I have a 55-gallon smoker.
Nice.
And so I use real oak wood. I have a thermometer built in.
Nice.
I have a chimney stack. But it's all handmade by the welding students at the school where I teach.
Nice. That's excellent. I have a Yoder, but it's a offset, same type of concept. So yeah, those are the best. They're fun, but it does take a special skill to keep it regulated and do everything else. I mean, you're working.
Yep. You're not cheating. That's for sure. You're not cheating. And, I'm old school when it comes to that. I've never owned a gas grill either, just my Weber's. Nice. So yeah. So, but after 3 weeks ago and the brisket incident, I'm ready to throw it all away.
Until next time.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get back at it, but yeah, I love doing beer can chicken. Yeah. I love doing burnt ends.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Brisket is my favorite, but cutting up burnt ends and oh God, that is so good. But then beer can chicken, and then I do have a ribs recipe where I cheat a little bit, where I boil the ribs ahead of time, and then I put them on the grill and I just lather them up with barbecue sauce. Sure. It's the only time I ever use barbecue sauce, and it makes a caramelized, so a really crispy coat on it. And oh my God, it's so good. But I do cheat a little bit by boiling the ribs ahead of time. But I haven't been able to make them any better than that. So
that's great.
Well, surely when you're smoking your meat, you must be listening to podcasts. As fellow podcasters, what's on your playlist? What are your go-to podcasts?
The Grateful Dead.
Oh man, you're speaking my language.
I listen to the Grateful Dead when I smoke meats. I listen to a mutual friend of ours, Gary Arndt's podcast, Everything Everywhere.
Sure. Great one.
Yep. So I listen to that a lot. Invisibilia is another one that I listen to quite a bit. So that's a lot of psychology and stuff like that. So those are the ones that I listen to quite often. I don't teach history. Tosh knows this. I actually teach science and then psychology. Now I haven't taught science now for a few years, but so I love anything that's scientifically related. So I do a lot of that sort of stuff. So yeah.
I'm probably listening to the Grateful Dead when I deliver your mail.
That is outstanding. Yep. Grateful Dead. And, I didn't go to the Sphere this year for Dead and Company, but I'd been to Dead and Company every summer minus COVID for the last 8-9 years. Awesome.
So is that not one of the most amazing things, how John Mayer just embraced the whole Grateful Dead world, their whole catalog? And I tell you what, I never thought I would ever say this, but I mean, he's not Jerry Garcia, but God dang it, he's almost Jerry Garcia in a different way. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm a layperson when it comes to music. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. And I love the Grateful Dead. And the difference between Trey and John Mayer is night and day.
Yeah.
Nothing against Trey. I like Fish. But John Mayer embraces Grateful Dead culture.
Yeah.
He embraces the music, and he makes the show about the crowd.
Yeah.
And it is something incredibly amazing that happens. I'm so happy that John Mayer had issues with his voice, and he had to stop singing for a while, and he just listened to the Grateful Dead and practiced it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because how lucky and blessed Deadheads are to have this opportunity. And no, nobody can ever be Jerry Garcia.
Right.
We all know that. But wow, like he just makes it about the music.
Yeah.
Did
He
you see
makes it
Jerry
about-
52? Did you see him?
Did I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. 89, 90. And then I did not go at all during college. I saw them in the summer of 94.
Okay.
So
I caught
and
the
I was-
last show and it's Soldier.
and I had tickets to that, and my friend Phil fractured his ankle playing pickup basketball the
Phil
day
Lesh.
before, and so we couldn't go.
Oh boy.
We sold our tickets, and then he died. In August?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. August 9th.
August 9th. Yep. So I
I
missed.
think I came up with a new bucket list item, dude. I think we need to go to a show together. I think
That
it'd be a lot of
sounds
fun.
good. That
Yeah.
sounds good. Yeah. My buddy Joel Hermanson, he's on the beer podcast sometimes. Respect the Beer podcasts, which I
Right.
listen to as well.
Local podcast.
What's that?
A local podcast.
A
I love
local
that.
podcast. Yep. And he is a huge Grateful Dead fan. He is 100-fold compared to me. He has an ear for it, so he can hear a song and tell you what year. And oftentimes he can tell you what show. It's really ridiculous. He immediately knows because he can tell immediately who the keyboard player was.
Yeah. Such a great history.
Right. Yeah. And
Brent Years are the best. In my opinion, Brent Years
Brent
are the
Midland
best.
is our favorite. His rendition of "Blow Away" at RFK that last year in 1989 is one of the penultimate songs. I listen to it every day. Yeah,
I've got to shout out. Well, Tosh and I have a great story with Bill Walton. Him and I hung with Bill Walton for 2 days when he came. When he came to the Red Smith banquet. Tosh and I drove. Oh, you'll love this. Tosh and I drove down to pick him up to bring him back to the banquet. So whatever night he flew in, he had a late night flight, like 9:30 he arrived. So Tosh and I went down there. We listened to a Dead show on the way down there, and we picked up Bill Walton. It was the three of us. I sat in the back seat. Bill was in the front seat. I saw his phone. Mickey Hart's on his favorites, call screen. O'Teal, it's just that's his favorite screen, minus Tosh, and it was just, but that was the most incredible thing. And then we had a local band, Diggstown, played the night of the Red Smith banquet, and afterglow show. And they're the Diggstown. I think you would like those guys.
Okay.
They'll play some Dead music, and even just their originals kind of have that deadish country. Just you would like them for sure. But yeah, what a night! I mean, literally that night. It was one of the all timers for us.
Yeah, I miss Bill. I just miss hearing Bill Walton's voice.
Yeah,
you have those people, and you two are blessed enough to meet him. And you guys, first I'll say this, you have those dinners with dead people. What 4 people would you want to eat dinner with? He would be right on the list, right up there. And so I have to ask you guys, besides the talk he gave, what was the funniest thing that he said to you in the car? What is the most creative? Did he say anything outlandish like, "This is the greatest car ride that I have ever been on. This is just the most amazing car. The scenery is beautiful." I mean, come on.
So Bill Walton, he was pretty chill, but he is the most curious person. He's a guy almost in effect where I almost feel like I almost made a subconscious change in the way I do things in life, because he was the most curious person about life and about people. He wanted to know everything. So he got in Tosh's car. We needed a big car. Gets in Tosh's car. He asked Tosh, are you sober? Tosh says yes. He gets in and he opens up his laptop and the maps, and he follows along, and he asked us questions about everything, about what's West Bend, what's Fond du Lac, what happens in Neenah, who's this guy, who's that guy. And we just talked about curious things the whole entire way. It was the most amazing conversation because he was just a guy. And I mean, you have to pinch yourself that it's Bill Walton, but it wasn't Bill Walton on TV. I mean, him and I had, before all this happened, we had a Zoom call, and I immediately knew I could have a connection with the Grateful Dead with him. So to prep myself, I listened to July 4th Buffalo show, I think maybe 89 or something like that. It's a great 4th of July show. And Bill just took to it. I started asking him questions about it. He was there, and we just connected right away. So he felt pretty comfortable with us because I think Tosh and I had a rare opportunity. It's not often that just two complete strangers pick them up and, take them 2 hours north. I think it was the Grateful Dead that connected us. No doubt about it.
Bill Walton would have been the greatest talk show host or podcaster of all time, because it's like what's the Wings podcast YouTube, the guy that does the spicy wings with people, Evans.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't. Sean Evans, and he asks the most curious questions of people, and people being interviewed by him just love his questions. And I could see Bill Walton doing that. He would have the most amazing questions to ask people. And God, now I'm sad. Now I just made myself sad.
Honestly, the gift that he gave us, for real, just be curious. Just talk to people and be curious about everything and anything. Doesn't even matter if you think it's stupid. He would ask any question in the world.
Right.
He just wanted to know stuff.
I have one of my quotes on the wall in my classroom comes from Ted Lasso, and it says, "Be curious, not judgmental."
Yeah.
And that's how Bill led his life.
Yeah. And he remembered everything too. I mean, he remembered everybody's name. When he spoke that next night, he was dropping names of people he met. It's just, he was fantastic.
It was kind of cool as the Red Smith group. Everybody kind of had a time block with him. Some of the committee members, like Mackenzie Clemens, was on our committee, and she took Bill. Bill wanted to go explore Appleton during the day because we brought him up, on a Tuesday night, and then he had the day of the banquet to free, and so Mackenzie took him around and took him all over the place and just showed him Appleton. He wanted to know where he was and just what there was to learn. And Jeremy Davis was able to take him back to the airport, so got a nice block with him on the way back, and everybody got to learn from him. It was actually really cool from that standpoint that we all got kind of that intimate time with Bill Walton.
Yeah.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. Funny story, I coached Mackenzie Clemens.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, she's so awesome. Mackenzie is the best. I mean, I learned so much from them, from Mackenzie and Jeremy. I mean, they're all significantly younger than me, in their 20s, but they kind of opened my eyes to what social media is, kind of how the world works through their eyes. And I love being able to connect with the younger, generation. Yeah,
that's so cool. Yeah, there's some amazing young adults in our community, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, you're amazing too, as well, Eric. I mean, heck, we're an hour and 20 into this, so we
what happened?
Yeah,
all
we
right.
better
wrap it up.
Hit stop, but maybe do a recurring guest at some point.
Hey, I'm game.
Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to our throwback to the Red Smith Sports Awards. You're going to hear a clip from the one and only Badger great Ron Dayne from 2011. And, you know, just a reminder that you can catch the full clip on our YouTube channel on Sunday. But, Joe, Ron Dayne, really?
Tosh, we figured since the Badgers got their ass kicked by Alabama, we wanted to throw it back to the golden era when, number 33 would just punish people.
Yeah, he was a stud, 96 to 99, won the Heisman in 99. All around, he still shows up at Badger games and in Madison. He's pretty much a fixture to this day. So great interview. You're going to hear that clip. And if you want to catch the whole thing, go to our YouTube, subscribe, and enjoy on Sunday.
Red Smith Sports Awards. Banquet Throwback.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport in Wisconsin, and also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome. Your 2011 Red Smith Award winner, Ron Dayne. After your great career at Wisconsin and obviously a number of years, very good years in the National Football League, you've been back in the state now for a couple of years. What's it been like for you getting reacquainted with all the fans who cheered you on as a Badger?
Well, it's been great. Just being able to be back in Wisconsin where, you know, everybody, it feels like I was still in school. You know, I go back and I see everybody and they're just like, Ron Dayne, you should be playing. I'm like, well, that was 11, 12 years ago. But, you know, it's just great to be back. My kids are out here in Wisconsin. They're good at sports, so that kind of takes away from me not playing football. So my boys play football, and I kind of use that to tease them. My oldest son says I cheated in college because I was bigger than everybody.
I'll never forget Barry Alvarez when he recruited Ron. I was talking to him one day. He was really excited. He says, Matt, I got a 260-pound running back. He's going to be a Badger. I said, you're that excited over a fullback? He said, no, he's a tailback, a 260-pound tailback. And that's what separated Wisconsin from the other schools because, Ron, you were recruited by a lot of other schools, but not necessarily as a tailback, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was recruited. The Florida teams, like Florida State, Miami, they all wanted me for fullback. You know, I was big. I never played fullback, so, you know, I kind of felt weird about the situation. But the only other team that really wanted me as running back was Michigan State. And I know. So, but out of all the schools, you know, when I came to Wisconsin, that was my first visit. And I visited Wisconsin, and it was I committed, you know, on that my first visit. So my uncle told me to compare other teams. Sorry, my phone is going off, but I dropped it in some water earlier before I got here, so I can't stop it. So I'm sorry.
True story. Yeah. We were witnesses. True story.
I went to Ohio State on the visit, and while I was there on the visit, 6 running backs committed. So I said, well, I know I'm not going here. I didn't even go meet the coach at the time. So the only other school that I visited was Tennessee because my cousin went to school down there and it was a party. So we went to have fun. So, yeah.
The week, for those who were in particularly if you lived in the Madison area, the week that led up to the Iowa game, when Ron broke the record, there was hype unlike maybe anything we've seen until this past season when Ohio State came in as the number 1 ranked team. But Ron, that week for you, it had to be, I would think must have been crazy. All the interview requests and all of that. What was that like for you that week going into the Iowa game?
Well, it was crazy for me, but the funny part about it for me was that all the starters were going through the same thing. I thought it was only me, so I'm sitting there like, man, I got to go to this interview. I'm going to do this. I got to go take these pictures. I got to go meet this person. I got to do that. And I'm walking by everybody, just seeing, starters on our team. We had Mackey, all my linemen, and, the Brooks and guys like that. They were just walking by. So I'm like, what's wrong with y'all? I'm leaving meetings like, I'm tired. I got to go to another meeting. And I'm seeing them. I didn't realize that everybody was going through the same thing that I was going through. I thought it was just me. So, it just made it that much better after the fact. But, I didn't realize that everybody was going through the same thing, even the coaches. So that's what made it that much better after the game for me.
The day of the game, it was almost like the planets aligned. It's November 13th, middle of November. Bright sunny day, about 70 degrees, the way it always is in November in Wisconsin. You have a rival. Down as it was, Brett Bielema, by the way, was an assistant on the Iowa staff in 1999. He loves to be reminded of that, by the way. And Wisconsin wins in a rout, and Ron breaks the record. You saw the clip on a run that featured everything: his speed, his ability to shake loose, get away from traffic, his power, all in one play. Ron, when you broke the record, describe for those of us who can only dream of that moment, what was it like to finally, the year-long chase was over, you made it, the record was yours?
Well, before I broke the record, there was a couple problems going on that people didn't know. First, our fullback Chad Coons was like, if you break the record, I better be in. So I'm like, all right, no matter what, I'll tell Coach, call this play when Chad is in. But then I wasn't, and the biggest thing that made me upset, and the worst part, throughout the game, I wasn't the leading rusher throughout the game. Brooks Bonser was the leading rusher, so coaches coming to the, we're getting the plays, and Brooks are calling them. I'm like, man, you're not gonna fake. You getting ready to run? I'm looking at him. We getting ready to argue and fight. I just stopped looking at him. I'm like, man, he had 90 yards in the first quarter. So I'm like, wow, I only need 123. But that was the biggest thing. We were kind of going through it in the huddles, and I'm kind of not listening. I'm like, man, it's another pass play. It's a play action. You're getting ready to run. I'm like, So when I broke it, it was just great. Chad came in. He was in the game. Chad got in. He was like, man, we're going to break it on this one. I was like, yeah, I know this is a good play because it isolated him on the fullback or on the linebacker. So I only had to make a DB miss. So it was that much easier on that play that, when I got in. And I kind of got cursed out by Chris Chambers because I ran him over on that play. And he still talks about that to this day. So
that is true. I can vouch for that. A couple more here for you, Ron. We have a lot of young athletes, very accomplished already, but a lot of young athletes in this room. Just wondering, I'm sure you get asked a lot for advice. What's the best piece of advice you could give a young athlete right now who aspires maybe to be the next Ron Dayne or the next Jeff Cirillo, whatever the case may be? If there's someone that he or she idolizes, what's the best advice you could give them?
Well, for me, I would have to say schools first. You can't get nowhere without an education. So I'll have to say, school, and hearing some of those the GPAs up here, I'm talking to the guys, 3.85, 3.6, I'm like, wow, man, I'd have loved to sit by you in school.
And on that note, go ahead.
I just want to say schools first, and that's what I push for my kids too. And my daughter, she's 13, and she's a straight A student, and she's a great athlete. And my son he was more like me, hate to go to school, and I don't want to, but I have to do it if I'm gonna play sports. So he's good in school too. So it'd have been nice to have some of y'all as friends with the 3.5.
Really, Ron, real quick, one more, and then we'll we will move on. But you and I had heard a lot about this event. This is the first time we've been here at the Red Smith Banquet, and I can tell you it's everything we've been told it would be and more. And you've won a lot of awards, but I have the feeling this one's pretty special to you, isn't it?
Well, yeah, definitely. You know, especially when it's for kids and not even kids. They're getting ready to be adults, you know, going into the next stage of their life. So, you know, I definitely appreciate this award, and it's a great award to have. I didn't know anything about it. People were telling me about it, so I kind of looked it up, and I'm on here with Greg Humble, so I can't so, you know, that's a big one for me, too.
Well, congratulations. Red Smith Award winner, Ron Dayne.
All right, Tosh, another great throwback episode. We've got a lot of them out there. 2011, Ron Dayne. There's 65 plus various authors, athletes on our YouTube page, Newsa-Cast YouTube page. Like and subscribe, watch a video. We would appreciate it, Tosh. Well, as we wrap up another great show, we got to take a little, it's forgotten. I'm never forgetting. So what's forgotten in your world, Tosh?
Well, it kind of has to deal with the weather, but it's the hunting. Bow hunting started last weekend, and it's been so hot for bow hunting. Will and I haven't not had a lot of luck, and you get all your clothes on and your camo and everything like that, and you start sweating, and it wasn't a good weekend last weekend. It wasn't a good weekend this weekend, but there's a lot of bow hunting left, and I'm sure temperatures will cool down. And, like 4 weeks from now, 5 weeks, I'll probably be complaining that it's too cold. But you can always put on more clothes. You can only take off so much.
Yeah, exactly. Facts.
So, yeah, I'm forgetting that stretch of 80s and 90s, close to 90 for hunting.
So you basically have all of October yet to bow hunt and all of that? Is that all the season? Actually,
bow hunting goes all the way into January.
Oh, shoot. Okay,
yeah.
Good. Yeah, well, that's cool.
You take a 2-week window where it's gun season and then muzzle loading, but then you come right back to bow. So,
well, if I'm being honest, I don't feel too bad for you. I like the warm weather.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. How about you, Joe? What do you want to forget today?
Well, Tosh, I forgot my ottoman. It was got home and made myself a little breakfast in the cast iron skillet. I had a little corned beef hash going, some fried eggs. I was ready to go. I grabbed the skillet and walk into the living room, ready to watch the Packer game, put the skillet right down on the ottoman, and just went to town crushing what I made. And I felt like I was smelling something that possibly was burning, but I'm like, it must just be the oven or something. I don't know what the heck. Watch the Packer game, kind of get, I don't know, there's a timeout, pick up the dish, and it kind of unpeels off the ottoman. It's like, son of a gun, completely spaced putting the heating pad or, the protective pad down on the ottoman, just put that thing directly on the ottoman. So now I have a blackish, waxy surface on part of that ottoman, Tosh.
That gives it character, I'm sure.
It does. I'm all full of character.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old are you, Joe?
Tosh, I struggle in some areas of life. There's no question about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sakes. Yes. Is it awesome? I guess. Awesome story, right? Everything turns into content, I guess.
It does.
Yeah. Such is
I'm
life.
sure we've all been there at some point.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to forget that. Well, maybe I'm never going to forget that because I'm always going to look at that stain or that spot. But what, in fact, are you never going to forget?
Well, we may have talked about this throughout the last year or so, but I used to be a lot more into beekeeping. Bees behind our house, bees at the farm. I haven't done it as much. My neighbor has kind of passed the torch to him, but we still, collect honey. And yesterday, which would be Saturday, which would have been the 21st, we harvested over 500 pounds of honey.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we started at 12:30 and ended at 4:30. So 4 hours of spinning and cutting frames and uncapping. And yeah, it was a lot. I know we have some going to the meadery in Kaukauna. And if you didn't know, there's a meadery in Kaukauna. They use some of our honey to make
That's
their
awesome.
mead. And there's also a couple breweries that are using our honey. So, which is great. Paul does a lot of the beekeeping now. He has
That's awesome.
We have several hives down by his mom's, and I just don't get down there. I don't get out as much as I used to. You know, it used to be like at least once, twice a week checking the bees, but it's a lot of honey. So I never want to forget that. It's pretty fun. I still remember days sitting watching the bees. I'd sit right by the opening, right by the hives, crack open a beer and sit in the lawn chair and just watch the bees come in. I know I sound like a geek now, but it was pretty cool.
I love that, Tosh. That's an awesome hobby. It's an awesome thing to do. And I know you've done that now for quite a while, and that's really cool. And to have it go to a brewery and a meadery. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So how about yourself, Joe? What are you never forgetting?
Well, Tosh, it occurred to me, this was my long weekend. So I was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and walked over to my son Owen's place, and that took me kind of past Lawrence, because every good letter carrier on their day off, what do? You walk.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Wanted to get a good walk in. But I noticed, Tosh, there are lacrosse goals everywhere.
Yeah.
Down in the Bonta Bowl, and then when you walk up by Alexander Gym, it's lacrosse goals and rebound nets.
Yep.
And they're a lacrosse school. And by the way, I guys, their athletic facility looks fantastic. The baseball field was looking good. You have that new track, but what struck me was the lacrosse goals, and Mikey put out on their social media in the fall on October 22nd.
Yep. 22nd.
They've got the fall scrimmage. Yeah.
Or is it 26th?
I'm sorry, 26th. I can't read.
Yep.
I have glasses and I still can't read. Saturday, October 26th, fall scrimmages at Minnesota and DePage and obviously Lawrence. And that's going to be cool. I mean, that's exciting to have D3. It's college lacrosse, and you and I are big. We love lacrosse. That's here, and we're never going to forget that. And it was just cool to have the reality of, man, there's lacrosse goals out there. I love it.
Yeah. They had some social pieces of the guys playing and practicing, and we're excited for Mikey Zadraga. We've had him on a couple times, so it should be exciting. I know Ethan and I were talking about going down to that. Hopefully we get a chance to on October 26th. Minnesota will be fun. I know Minnesota, I believe, is a club team, but they're good.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. So this is going to be a blast to be in the Bonta Bowl, seeing some college level lacrosse.
Can't wait. Never forgetting that, Tosh. Just like never forgetting this episode. It was a great interview with Eric. We touched on a lot of subjects that were pretty cool, and sometimes maybe even a little uncomfortable to talk about.
Yeah.
But pretty cool to be able to do that. And always a hoot, Tosh, to do this with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Newsa-Cast. We'd really appreciate it if you hit up our social pages, subscribe, like, follow, and don't be afraid to engage. Head over to our YouTube channel to get exclusive content like the full interviews and speeches from the past Red Smith banquets.
A huge thank you to Diggstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig or find them on Spotify.